Hey there, quilty friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and we are doing Christmas in July. I have my Baby Lock Jubilant, I have my Strippy Star Ruler, I have some scrap fabric, and we are going to make the most darling 3-inch finished star block ornaments. You will not believe how easy it is to put these together. You ready? Let's get started. So what you're going to need for this project is the Strippy Star Ruler. This is a must. You cannot do it without this ruler, but that's okay. It's an inexpensive ruler and you don't want to do it without this ruler. Once you see how easy it is to make star blocks with this ruler, you'll be so glad that you have it. Check your rulers though, because this ruler has been around for a while and lots of shops have done demos on it, and then people buy it and then forget what it does and they have it in their stack of rulers. So you may already own this ruler. If you don't, go down in the description and I have links to where you can get one. Okay, you'll also want some fusible fleece. This is going to be for the quilty part of our ornament. You will need some ribbon. You just need one ribbon. I have 2 different kinds here that I'll audition, and that's going to be for the loop of our ornament. And then you want 2 contrasting fabrics. These are fabrics that I have from my 2023 advent calendar. I may still have some of these in stock, so links down in the description if you want to grab the fat quarter bundle of these fabrics so you can make ornaments. A fat quarter bundle will make you so many ornaments. So we're going to start with making our star blocks using this Strippy Star Ruler. The Strippy Star Ruler does come with instructions. I have a video on how to use the Strippy Star Ruler. This is a Creative Grids ruler. They have a video that has instructions on how to use this ruler. So there's lots of different instructions out there. But honestly, we don't need any of those instructions because what you need is written right on the ruler. I'm going to show you. So here's the ruler, and I'll bring this up so you can see. And it has instructions written right on here, and we want the smallest, so that's right here, which is the 1-inch finished, because our ornament is going to be 3 inches finished. So we want each one of the squares of our 9 patch to be 1 inches finished. And so it says that I need 1.5 inch squares and 1.25 inch strips. So I'm going to need all of my background squares to be 1.5, and I'm going to need my star point strips to be 1.25. So I like to just do whatever the biggest size is because I am a lazy quilter. So you can actually get away with cutting your strips larger, and since this is just 1/4 inch, we're actually not going to lose really any measurable amount of fabric by cutting these 1/4 inch bigger. So I'm just going to cut everything to 1.5 inches, and that makes my life easier. So I have my glow ruler here, and I'm going to line this up to square off this end. There we go. I'll set those scraps aside to use in a different project. And then 2 strips will be more than enough to cut everything that I need. So we're going to cut a 1.5 inch strip. And a second 1.5 inch strip. I'm also, as long as I have this out, I'm going to need my background fabric or my backing fabric for my ornament. So that's going to be 3.5 inches because this finishes at 3 inches. So I need 3.5 inches. And as long as I'm cutting, I'm going to go ahead and cut myself 2 so I have an extra, because who doesn't love an extra? So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this to 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to take our strips, and I don't need such a big ruler, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my little ruler, and I need one center of my, I'm going to use this as my star points. I need one center unit that is 1.5 inches. And then I need 8 of the background fabric that are 1.5 inches. So I'm going to square off the end and then cut all these 8.5 inch pieces. Alright, so this is a 9 patch. I have 8 of my background, 1.5 inch, my 1 center, and then I have my background or my backing piece, and I cut 2 of those just to be safe. Now we need to draw on the back of these 1.5 inch squares using the Strippy Star Ruler. This is where we bring this one in. So what we do is we take the Strippy Star Ruler, we line up the line that we're using, which is that 1 inch finished line, and we just trace the ruler using our marking pen. I'm going to do this on all of these and talk to you for a second about marking pens, because there are lots out there and everyone has their favorite. If a friction pen is your favorite, you don't want to use your favorite marking pen in this case, because if you do, then when we iron this, because we will be ironing this, at one point you'll lose the second part of your line before you get to sew on that second part of your line, and you're going to be sad. Now, we don't like being sad, so you don't want to use a friction pen for this. You can use, this is a water soluble pencil, this is, or water soluble marker, this is great. You could use gosh, I mean, there's the black erasable pens. My other favorite is just a regular mechanical pencil, works great. You could use one of the colored chalk pencils. There are so many options for marking pens. Just don't use something permanent that's going to bleed through the fabric, and don't use a friction pen, because those two options are going to make you sad, and there should be no crying in quilting, right? Okay, so now that we've drawn our lines, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with our strip. So we're going to take our strip and we're going to put this so that the line is about a quarter inch away from this edge. And we're going to line these up as we go. If you want, you can line them all up now and pin them. I'm not a big pinner, so I'm going to just be doing this as I go. But they're going to look kind of like this, and you're just going to sew all the way down this strip, sewing all these pieces on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Show you what it looks like. So you don't need a perfect quarter inch here, just want a quarter inch-ish. The thing that you want to be perfect about is sewing on the line that you've drawn. So we're going to go ahead and sew on that line. And then we're going to put the next one down. You don't want to overlap this one with the previous one. And we're just going to sew on these lines all the way down until we have them all sewn onto the strip. Blah. I got a little overzealous and I actually drew the lines on 8 of these. I only need 4 for my block, and so I'm going to be making 2 star blocks, I guess, here. You need 4 that have the star points on them and 4 that don't, so I should have set 4 of these aside and sewn 4. Not a big deal here. And I want to press these, so what I'm going to do is actually flip this over so it's stripped side up, and then press this over. Alright, I have my glow ruler here to square these up. We're going to square them up to the size of the background fabric, which is super easy because you can really see that background fabric, no problemo. So cut and cut. And that's how we're going to cut them. And you can see on the back, I've got one star point right on there. So I'm going to keep doing that, squaring all of these up to the 1.5 inch size that those background pieces are. Should be super easy, just following along and getting them all squared up. I have all my star points. I'm going to take the second strip and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. So I want this second line, and you can see if you used a friction pen, this second line wouldn't be there because we pressed this, and that would have made this line disappear. So that's why we don't use a friction pen. And I'm going to line these up like this and do that same thing where I sew. It should be about 1/4 inch away, but my goal is to sew right on those blue lines so that I am making those second star points. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now we're going to do the same thing, pressing these to create those second star points. And then one more time, we're going to square these up to the size of the background square. Being very careful not to cut into the next one, so it could actually be better to start from this side. That way I don't have to worry about cutting into the one on the left. I can just go a little faster. So there are my finished star points, and so I can put a block together. So I've got a center, star point, star point, star point, star point, and 4 corners that were not sewn as star points. Ta-da! There we go. And then I have my 4 other star points. I cut myself another center and 4 more corners so that I can turn this all into another little ornament later if I want. All right, so this right here, that's a 9 patch. Hopefully you've sewn one of these together before. If not, it's super easy. We're going to sew these 2 together, these 2 together, and these 2 together because we're going to start our rows. Once we've done that, then we're going to add this one onto here, this one onto here, and this one onto here. That'll be our rows. Then we're going to press. This top one is going to get pressed out. This bottom one's going to get, or this middle one's going to get pressed in. This bottom one's going to get pressed out. That's going to allow us to nest our seams. And then we'll sew these rows together. Was that fast? Yes, it was. Am I going to go slower through it as we do it? Absolutely. So let's go ahead and sew this. So like I said, we're going to start by taking these 2 and sewing them together. And we're going to do that with all 3 rows, taking the first one from first and second from each row and sewing them together. We're sewing these together with a 1/4 inch seam. I'm using the 1/4 inch foot on my Baby Lock Jubilant here, which gives me that seam allowance. But there are lots of different methods for getting a great seam allowance. And then I like to chain piece. So once I have this 3rd one on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back of my machine. I'm going to cut off the first one, which should be the top of my row. I'm going to cut off these extra threads while I'm here cutting. And I'm going to lay it down here. I'm going to move these over so we can see it all in this frame. Oh, there we go. Lay it down here to make sure that my points are up in the right direction, and they are. I'm going to grab this other piece, put it right sides together, so make sure I'm not flipping or twisting or turning anything, because I can absolutely do that, and I would rather not unpick if I can avoid it. Then I'm going to cut this one off. This is my middle, so I'm going to lay it out here. Make sure that I'm putting everything the right way. Line these up. And so, and then I'm going to do the same with the 3rd row. Now while we're talking, while I'm sewing, I'm going to go ahead and answer questions that I see all the time about the Strippy Star Ruler, which is, with all these point blocks, I didn't cut off the background fabric. So you can see here, I didn't cut these off, trim it to a 1/4 inch, and so now there's extra fabric back here. Is that going to be a problem? And the answer is no. That fabric is being used as a stabilizer. It's going to prevent the fabric that's on the bias, which is those star points. It's going to prevent that bias fabric from stretching and getting wonky, and we don't want it to stretch or go wonky. So we're just going to leave it there. It's not harming anything. I use only Art Gallery fabrics, which are high quality fabrics. They're a higher thread count and the fabric is super thin. So it really creates almost no bulk back there. And for the benefit we get of this not stretching, because this edge here would be a bias edge on this black fabric, but it won't stretch because I have that backing fabric there. So let's go ahead and bring the iron out again, and we're gonna go ahead and iron these real quick. Like I said, the top and bottom are getting pressed out, and the middle one's getting pressed in. Now, if I mix up the top and bottom piece, is it gonna matter here? Nope, because the top and bottom piece are exactly the same. All right, one's the top, one's the middle, oh, one's the bottom. I'm gonna sew these 3 rows together. So first 2 go together. Because I press those seams in opposite directions, it means I can nest those seams, and that'll help my points line up a little better. Same 1/4 inch seam that we've been using the whole time. Those first 2 rows together, I like to take it off, double check to make sure that I'm not accidentally, you know, putting this one on the top or upside down or anything nonsense like that. I want to put them together the correct way. Put them right sides together. And then we're going to be able to see our finished block. And it's such a cutie. Alright, these last seams, you can press really any direction you want. I'm just going to go ahead and press them out. Isn't it so cute? Little star block. Okay, so now we're actually going to press this on our fusible fleece, bumpy side up. Just going to lay this on there and go ahead and press it on. I want to make sure that I don't get the iron on the bumpies of the fusible fleece, because if I do that, then I'll get goop on my iron, and we don't want goop on our iron. Going to go ahead and trim this to the size of the block, which if I did a good job, it should be 3.5 inches. Oh, that's pretty good. One did a pretty good job here. Flip it over and finish squaring it up to 3.5 inches. Now, this is one of the other things that I love about this Strippy Star block. I want you to notice that there is more than a 1/4 inch here after the points, and that's on purpose. That's because I won't lose any of my star points even if my 1/4 inch seam allowance isn't perfect as I sew everything together. And the Strippy Star ruler does that at every single size. By the way, I don't think we talked about it. The Strippy Star ruler makes 9 patch star blocks, which this is a 9 patch, comes together much easier than a traditional star patch or a star block. They're all strip pieced, so it makes 9 patch star blocks that are strip pieced, so easier, and they all are floating, which means that the points float more than a 1/4 inch, so you don't trim off your star points even if you're squaring up and then sewing your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's why I love the Strippy Star ruler. It's easy, and you don't lose your points. And it makes 9 patch star blocks as small as 3 inches finished, which is the smallest size we're making here, all the way up to 13.5 inches, and every size in between at 1.5 inch increments. So it does 3 inch, 4.5, 6 inch, 7.5, 9 inch, and so on up until 13.5 inches. So it's my favorite for lots of reasons. I love the Strippy Star ruler, and I think you'll love it too. Okay, so we have our little block finished. If you want at this point, you can add some either free motion quilting, walking foot quilting, hand quilting, or you can wait until it's all put together to do that. Either way, depending on if you want that stitching to show up on the backing, because we are going to put our backing on, and we need to pick what ribbon we want to use for our loop, because this is the spot where we add the ribbon loop. So I have this one, so that would be our ribbon loop, or I have this one. Now this one, I don't don't know, like this one is a little more plain, but I think it lets the star block pop out a little more. However, this one is really pretty, so I'm going to go with this one. I want, oh, let's call it 5 inches. You can do less, you can do more, up to you. And because I want the loop to end up on the outside, I need to start it out on the inside. And if you have a, like, an opinion on directional, so like the stocking will be right side up, if I put the loop here, then put the loop here. And then I want the loop to stick out a little bit beyond, because I find that sometimes they shift. If you don't catch that very edge, then your loop is just a thread and it's not loopy and it won't work. So I like to have those edges stick up. Then I'm going to put this top on. Now you can, or the back on top, so right sides together. And now it's up to you to put this on right sides together, and we're going to stitch all the way around, starting on one side and going all the way around, leaving ourselves about a 2-inch hole for turning, because that's what we're going to need. I've stitched all the way around. It's time to clip these corners. So I'm going to clip, now you can clip them across, but I like to clip what I call little seagull shapes. So this is that little seagull shape, and I'll show you that up close. So I'm kind of cutting here and here. I feel it takes more bulk out without having to get quite so close to that stitched corner, because when we flip this right side out, all the fabric from this is all going to fit right in here. So the more of this that I can clip away, the smoother and more pointy that corner is going to be. Alright, so I've clipped all my corners. I'm going to take this and turn it right side out through that hole. My loop will come out. Now you might be tempted to take like pointy scissors to poke those corners out, but don't do it. You want to take a pen that has like a blunt end. You could use that purple thing. You could use a chopstick, but you don't want anything pointy in these corners, because if you poke through one of these corners, you'll have a hole and you'll be sad. And we do not like being sad when we're quilting. I've gone over this, right? Okay. So let me clean up my space. Everything's flipped. My corners are pretty. I'm going to press the back of this for just a second here to make it flat. Isn't that so fun? Look at that. And I'm going to tuck in the back fabric. Go ahead and give that a press already. And then I'm going to come to the front. Tuck in this front fabric. Now be careful, if you picked a ribbon that's synthetic and it's going to be sensitive to the heat of your iron, you don't want to get the heat of your iron on that ribbon. And I don't know what this ribbon is made of, so just to be safe, I'm going to keep that ribbon out of the way. And I'm going to press. And I want to stitch this 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around, because if I do a 1/4 inch, I'm not guaranteed to grab that edge and close that hole, but 1/8 of an inch should be fine. And that should grab that seam allowance and close that hole all the way. When you get to a corner, you want to have your needle down at the corner, lift your presser foot up, pivot your project, presser foot down, and then keep stitching. And I didn't this time, but often when I do a top stitch, I like to increase my stitch length by a little bit. So a normal stitch length is 2.5. I like to go to like a 3.5. And I think that gives like a nice finished look for a top stitch. Once you get all the way around, then just go back and forth a couple stitches to lock your stitches. Then you can clip your threads. And now you have this darling star ornament, just 3 inches. It's the size of my palm, just 3 inches. Super cute. You can hang that on your tree or wherever else you want a little star Christmassy decor. Friends, again, if you haven't subscribed, I don't know what's stopping you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, go down below. Please leave those questions or comments. I do look for those. In the description, I have all kinds of links for you. So go to the description to get those links. And friends, I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.